Hi everyone. Welcome to the fifth in this season's webinar. It's been a long weekend here, and it's still half term here in the UK. So thanks everyone for joining us. We're still getting back into the swing of things. Hopefully, a super interesting session, and we've got lined up for us today, where we're going to be having a look at the retail space. And how the kids and family world are affected by the changes that are happening in the retail space. My name is Maurice. I am the Managing Director here at We Are Family. We Are Family is Europe's leading kids and family agency network. And I am part of a double act. And I am joined today by my colleague Borja. Borja, how is Spain today?
Hi, Maurice. Thank you so much. Everything is fine right here. We are now reopening everything step by step, so everybody's cheering up here in Spain. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Borja here. I'm the Managing Director at Fulmin Spain.
We record all these sessions and we release them out onto our YouTube channel. So you don't have to furiously scribble notes, but please do drop any questions that you might have in the Q&A function. So you might see at the bottom of the screen, there's an option for you to add some questions. We'll get to those at the end of the session. We'll also keep this main window open, and that will have some of the questions on. If you'd rather zoom in on us and have a look at our faces as we're talking, then you can click on our faces in the Zoom interface. That makes us big and the screen small.
Yeah, in this new landscape, there are two main different players, the online and the physical, no? So which both has an inverse relation. The biggest problem right now for online retail is that it has been a victim of its own success, in particular with supermarket online order and delivery services, so which have been unable to cope with the scale of consumer demand. The forecasts for retail announced by Forrester consultants do not show a glimpse of optimism, but according to them, the sales of this channel in 2020 will drop an average of 9% globally, which translates into a loss of $2.1 trillion. The reason, as expected, is the impact that the coronavirus pandemic is having in practically all sectors. In 5 European countries, Germany, Spain, France, Italy, and the United Kingdom, retail channels sales will lose around 200 billion euros in this year. So it's a decrease around the 10% compared to the previous year. These aren't all bad conclusions, but we are here to seek new arising opportunities, don't we, Maurice?
Yeah, hopefully we can be a bit positive where we can. Obviously, it's a challenging time, but we've got some people here who hopefully can help us learn how we can react and adapt and mitigate against some of the problems that we're facing. So, first of all, I'm going to welcome Neil Taylor, who is the Managing Director of HMV in the UK. Hello, Neil.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah. We also have Jim Hawker, the co-founder at TripPipe Reply. Hi, Jim.
Guys, good to be here.
So I'm going to start with you, Neil. I'm going to come to you first, if I may. You're obviously at the coalface of the retail landscape right now, having MD of HMV, which has a lot of physical stores as well as an online presence. Could you talk us a little bit through what you've seen happen and how you've been reacting and managing these times?
Okay, so we do have 108 stores in the UK, and effectively at the end of March, they were all closed down. So the stores account for around about 90% of our revenue. We've got no debts, we've got no bank line, we've got no bank loans, which is good in normal times of year. But in this time, when 90% of your sales revenue drops off, it can be problematic. So that revenue disappeared completely. We've had quite a lot of help from the UK government. We've had something over here called a job retention scheme. People may have heard it called furlough scheme before. where effectively the government are paying 80% of everyone's salary. So we've been able to utilise that and put everyone onto the furlough scheme from the stores and the regional managers. So that's helped with costs, that's for sure. And now we've been given a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, because on week commencing the 15th of June, the stores in England, at least, we've got 92 stores in England, they're allowed to reopen. So yeah, big changes, and 90% of your revenue disappearing in one day, overnight.
Thank you so much, Neil. And Jim, you're obviously an agency who has retail clients, and you have an Amazon specialism. How have you been affected, and what have you seen your clients do to respond?
Yeah, I mean, we're still here and fighting. We have quite a broad mix of clients across many different sectors, so it's been quite a mixed bag, I think, over the last couple of months. Some clients are doing extremely well at the moment, and others not so well for various reasons, which I'm sure we'll go into. So the sectors that are buoyant at the moment, so I'll focus on the positives, are well-being, fitness. The toy category is doing pretty well on platforms like Amazon at the moment. Groceries, and actually beauty as a category is performing very well, as people can't get to salons, they can't get their nails done, they're doing a lot of treatments. We're seeing a lot of clients having quite a buoyant 8-10 weeks actually in terms of specific products and certain categories. Actually in the toy and parenting market specifically, we're working with a number of brands across multiple countries, and actually consistently on, certainly on Amazon, they're doing particularly well, whether that's games for the garden or homeschooling or just general board game family time. So real mixed bag depending on your luck and fortune, I guess.
Neil, from your perspective, you've obviously seen a lot of your audience move online. How have you seen that change the sorts of things they're buying, what their baskets now look like, frequency of shopping? What have you seen as far as the audience trends from what they're buying and how they're purchasing? First of all, the good news about this story is we've seen a 5-fold increase against budget. And basically, I think it's fast-tracked our online business by possibly up to 24 months or 12 months. So that's been a real positive thing about it. And as regards the products, the sales mix is quite different online versus a store. So a couple of key examples. We sell a lot of vinyl. Vinyl in store is around about 10% of the sales mix. Last week online, it's 35%. And over the previous 10 weeks, it's been around 30. So big, passionate vinyl audience online, which has really put us at the forefront of the vinyl market in the UK, which is great. We've also seen a big shift towards Blu-ray and ultra high definition 4K discs for online as well. So ultra 4K, it's probably about 2% of the sales mix in store. It's up to 10% online. So the problem that you get is more impulsive products. So CDs and DVDs are now basically impulse products where people come across them in a store whilst browsing, get inspired, and then pick them up and buy them. They're not necessarily a destination purchase where people have come online to look for a specific title, and it's harder to do the browsing experience online. So the mix in those two areas is lower than we'd like and lower than we'd expect. But to be fair, the vinyl and 4K mix is definitely a lot higher. But that dealing with the mix is not a problem. The challenge is around dealing with a 5-fold increase in business and looking after what's called a COVID secure warehouse has been the biggest challenge. But the team in the warehouse have done an amazing job to A, deal with the stipulations that are required around running a safe warehouse, and B, getting that amount of volume of product out. It's interesting, Neil, that you talk about vinyl there, because I guess the instinct is that vinyl is quite a tactile purchase. You like to pick it up and look at it and look at the sleeves. It's interesting that has translated into online habit.
Yeah, it's our vinyl customers are very loyal and they buy off us a lot of the time, but we've also found we're getting a lot of new audience people as well. And one of the biggest feedbacks we get online about our vinyl offer is not so much about the pricing or the product, it's more about the packaging that it comes in. So we've invested quite a bit in packaging where the corners don't break on the vinyl, and that gets really big points off customers for satisfaction and the fact their vinyl comes undamaged, which is pretty important.
And Jim, for quite a few years, most of my clients have always seen Amazon as a bit of a discount store, or not necessarily where they want a lot of their customer engagement. They would rather go to direct to consumers. Are you still seeing this, and why might this be happening?
I think you're right. I think a lot of brands still see Amazon as a bit of a discount or platform, and one that they've traditionally stayed away from, depending on which sector you're in. I think that's unfair. I think a lot has changed on the Amazon platform over the last few years, and you're actually seeing, especially with the rise of the Prime audience, which actually tend to be quite urban, metropolitan, ABC1 sort of customers. And a lot of the work we're doing on Amazon with specific brands, we're seeing actually it's not hugely price sensitive in many occasions. It's actually people aren't buying on price. So I think it is an unfair criticism. I think things have changed depending on how long you've been in the industry and what your experience of Amazon is. And Amazon certainly is rectifying that by bringing in some pretty expensive talent from other sectors to reassure some of those brands, especially in the luxury sector, where they bring in people from Vogue and GQ to head up some of the editorial and content side of the platform. And I think that's reassuring certain brands in certain sectors. But the evidence shows that it's not the discount platform it used to be.
Following on from that, Jim. From a direct-to-consumer standpoint, obviously, Amazon is one channel, but lots of other people might think, well, now is my opportunity to create my own shopping experience and go direct to consumers. What have you seen from that, and what's your recommendations? What's your thoughts when people say that actually I'm going to develop a direct-to-consumer proposition?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of chat over the last 8 weeks. I mean, we've worked with a lot of direct-to-consumer businesses, multi-channel, but also pure-play online retail sites. And with all the challenges of high street retail, there was a lot of talk about, why don't they just pivot to an online strategy? And the reality is they've been trying to do that for a long time, but actually they're being held back by investments in staff, but also in high street locations and in difficult landlords. So a lot of the retailers we work with, it might be something like 20 to 30% of their sales are coming through online, but they'd like to pivot more to online, but they haven't necessarily got the investment and budget to be able to do that. I've seen a lot of big FMCG brands over the last 8 weeks, like Pepsi and Kraft, launch direct-to-consumer sites, getting a lot of publicity for it. But the reality is for them, there'd still be a very small percentage of their overall sales, which are predominantly still through high street or online grocery sites. And the reality is it's not easy to launch a D2C operation. You need a specific skill set. You need warehousing, logistics. You need a lot of talent to be able to really deliver a good D2C experience and make it work to budgets and targets. And so what we're seeing is a lot of clients going a bit more multi-channel, trying to experiment. I hate to keep talking about Amazon, but when we're talking about Amazon, it does offer you a route to market in a very fast and efficient way, which allows you to test and actually sell your product in an environment in which there's a lot of business going on. And to generate that kind of interest or that kind of traffic to your own site from a DTC perspective, it's extremely expensive and takes a lot of time to do. So, it's all about timeframes. I think Amazon gives you access to test some D2C activity over a short term. Maybe that enables you to get some data and build out a direct consumer strategy over the more medium and long term. But what we're seeing is a lot of clients running activity across multiple channels, both through high street, through Amazon, but also DTC, if they have the resources to be able to do so.
Sorry, Maurice, do you have a question?
Yeah, just Neil, from a browsing perspective, obviously browsing is super important for your users. You know, the flicking through of the, you know, you mentioned that up front there, flicking through the DVDs, and flicking through the DVDs is really important. I imagine as we see social distancing come in, it's going to be a lot harder. You're not going to have a nice free flowing. I know what it's like trying to shop for my groceries. It's quite stressful. You can only go one way and you can't really stop and linger. So how are you managing that? And how are you, what does the new browsing experience look like from a physical perspective, maybe also from a digital?
I think, interestingly, we spend a lot of time historically looking to how we can get customers into our stores, obviously, and how we can make them stay and improve dwell time. I think short term, with COVID secure guidelines in place, which we have to adhere to, obviously, for the safety of our customers and our staff, it is going to be very different. And I think it's about getting people in and out as quickly as possible. So anything that we can do short term on the browsing experience to, you know, can people phone beforehand and reserve the item they want with a set time and come and collect it? We've got click and collect online, which we think normally it's around about 8% of our online sales. We can see that going up a lot. So, you know, to what extent we don't know, but we can see that increasing. And we've also got an older customer base as well, which are not necessarily that good with online shopping. How do we offer something for them? In the 1990s, we used to do something called mail order, where you get a booklet, you pick what you want, phone a number, and you basically get it delivered to your house. We are actively now looking at reintroducing mail order, so our older customers can get a catalogue sent out, read through it, decide what they want, order it over the phone to a friendly, welcoming voice, and get it sent to their home address. So that's Project Back to the Future. So film reference there for you. But that's one thing we're looking at. I think as we move out of a COVID secure state, which realistic I think will probably be into 2021, we do need to look at the layout of our stores anyway. We were starting to downsize stores. Some of our stores are far too big, so relocate to smaller units. And in those smaller units, I think we need to make the store environment more inspirational, so people come in, find inspiration, and that's whether we sort of curate offers. So if you take a Marvel product, for example, we've got DVDs, Blu-rays, vinyl, toys, collectibles. We've got a whole range of products, and we're not that good just yet at pulling all of that together and giving customers a Marvel option to go, here's the whole range of Marvel that inspires you to create from. And I think that is something we will be fast tracking as well now anyway. So yeah, it's gonna look very different, and I guess at this minute in time there'll be problems that we encounter that we don't know yet. We've tried to think of everything that could possibly happen, but there's going to be things that come around and hit us in the face and go, right, we need to find a solution for that. But as I said earlier about our online business, you've got to take the positives out of a bad situation and try and make a difference. And if it fast tracks our model of making our shops more inspirational, then that'll be another benefit that comes out of the virus.
Do you think that, as you mentioned there, you know, people are going to be kind of coming in and going out quite quickly, but then at the same time you talk about that kind of experiential element to it as well, and kind of trying to up the experiential part. How much do you think point of sale is going to become more important, or is it going to become less important? More important because you don't have them for very long, so you need to get their attention quick, or less because they already know what they're coming in for. They're coming in, they're getting it, they're going.
I think a lot of customers that come into an HMV store come in I'd say 75% of our customers that come in at least do not know what they're looking for. They're coming in for inspiration, try and find what's new, and to have a browse effectively, as in the old world have a browse. So for us, we've got to grab their attention. So I think POS, in answer to your question, probably becomes more important, because you have got to grab their attention very quick and actually take them over to the displays of product that you are pulling together and curating. So yes, I think probably more rather than less of that.
And Jim, what about online? What are the equivalent ways brands can drive browsing on football to their products?
I mean, I think there's various ways we're helping product discoverability, let's say. So we're working with a lot of retailers at the moment to try and model which of their stores will recover fastest from the pandemic. And, we're using a lot of insight to help us determine what sort of location, whether it's high street or retail parks, and therefore which stores we should support tactically, more in terms of driving local awareness and footfall. We're also, the amount of traditional media drop off, or the lack of traditional media from a traditional print circulation has meant that, we're investing more into other more digital channels like influencer marketing engagement. So how can we get new brands, new products in front of people when they're not reading the traditional newspaper print media? So we're seeing a lot of pivoting of media investment into those channels. And I think the other area that we're seeing a lot of interest is that how can we aid product discoverability on some of the grocery retail e-commerce platforms. So we're working with a number of big FMCG brands at the moment where they're just not optimizing their presence effectively enough on the likes of Tesco's and Asda in the UK, for instance. So they're missing out on a lot of sales opportunities because they're not optimizing for search or understanding how people are searching or how the algorithms work on those grocery retail sites. So a lot of our work at the moment is optimizing product pages, having the correct product descriptions, imagery, video content, ensuring that there's really good product reviews. So when it comes to conversion, they've got a better chance of being popped in the basket. So there's lots of ways that brands are actually working with us at the moment just to drive more discoverability, let's say, online and through channels that they were probably already working with, but not doing a great enough job in the first place. And so because there's more emphasis on, certainly on the grocery and supermarket, retail, e-com sites, that's taking quite a bit of our time for a certain number of like food and drink brands.
Actually, as a question, I'm going to drop this question in because it's kind of pertinent to what you've just been talking about. As a question just come in from Canada, which has asked specifically, would you recommend a landing page before going to Amazon, meaning driving your traffic to a site that allows you to see and play with the product in a visual sense before driving them to Amazon? Quite a specific question, but Jim.
Well, I think you should have a landing page anyway from an SEO perspective. So, you should always have a page where people can go and you can curate that content yourself. But the reality is if you try and build in too many steps into a user journey, you will see a drop-off in terms of traffic and conversion to sale. The great thing about Amazon at the moment is that you can build brand stores on Amazon. And Amazon are encouraging brands to do that. They're not that expensive to set up, but you can create a branded presence on Amazon, which kind of mirrors what a landing page or microsite or homepage would look like anyway. So, you can drive people to a brand site. You can give them a rich experience through online content, through product reviews, through more in-depth product information. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's one or the other. You can do both, but Amazon offers you that opportunity.
Thank you. Finally, let's all stare into our crystal balls. What does the future have in store for retail? I'm going to start with you, Jim.
I think you probably have to think about it in short, medium, and long-term timeframes. I think, as I said a moment ago, we're helping clients better understand where the opportunities lie over the short term right now in terms of they be focusing on their store presence on retail parks or in shopping malls because you can more effectively social distance and that can be better managed versus more smaller high street stores. So I think that's some choices that brands make right now in terms of where they put their energy and effort. And that's an interesting thing to model out when you look at you've got 90 stores. Which ones do you really support? I think the medium term, you're seeing what's been a complete sort of change of behaviour. So some people who never bought groceries online before, perhaps will never go back. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about as well, because what long-term behavioural change is being enforced upon people, and therefore how do media plans need to change to reflect that. And then I guess lastly, there will be some retailers that will emerge a lot stronger from all of this, and Amazon is one of them. They've hired 175,000 people over the last few months, which is an incredible statistic, and they're investing $4 billion in creating a COVID-free supply chain, which actually will become a huge marketing asset over the next 6 months as well, giving members of the public the reassurance that actually when they're ordering from Amazon, actually they're ordering from a business that actually is COVID-free, which is a hell of a claim, but also they've got the power and the investment to actually make that happen. So I think thinking about it short, medium, long terms, that's how I see it.
Neil, how about you?
I think you have to look medium to long term. I think what retail opens back up like in the very near future will be completely different to what it looks like in 18 months. And I don't think we'll ever really go back to the old model of retail. I think things will change for good. For us personally, it's all about really creating a brilliant omni-channel customer journey, whether you're in store, online. I said earlier, going back to mail order, whatever the way you want to buy, does it all link seamlessly? And I think the strongest retailers will do that. Jim mentioned capital investment earlier, and people not necessarily investing their capital to grow their online channel. I think for us, where we would probably look 50-50 in terms of capital investment, that has now changed, and it will change to sort of 90% of our investment will be in online and how we can improve that journey. And I think stores will become a place, any stores will become a place where you need to A, let the customers enjoy the experience, and B, give them a reason to inspire them to purchase. I also think we've got some big shopping centres in the UK. I think they could struggle for a long time actually with crowds and crowds of people going, and I think the mindset has probably changed of people. So I think local stores will probably be a lot more important. So there's a lot of local markets in the UK where we don't operate, and depending on the performance of our local stores over the next 6 months when we reopen, it could change our property strategy for next year as well, to look at more of those local markets rather than the big shopping centres.
So see more HMVs on the high street is what you're saying?
But potentially, probably less so in the big expensive centres, and probably more local stores. Rent's a bit cheaper as well.
We've got some more questions coming in. Got one coming in from the UK. So this is how do companies? So Jim spoke there a little bit about how to optimize presence and how to optimize your strategy on an Amazon. But how, this was specifically to you, Neil, how should a brand work with someone like an HMV in order to optimize their sales through you? Online particularly.
Online, I think what really works for us is targeted promotions, whether we target customers via email or via our database or via social or by SEO. That is really important. So I think we've got some fantastic suppliers that have worked with us really well on promotions, and not only does it sell their product that's in the promotion, obviously it also sells product which isn't in the promotion. So it is definitely a two-way conversation that we're having, and the stronger suppliers are on the front foot. and they're the ones that are talking about what can we do to promote our products, not necessarily just our products, but our products in with other people's that align to it, where you can curate offers. And I think those suppliers that have been on the front foot are the ones that have made a big difference to us. And there's been various ones over the course of the last 10 weeks that have really stepped up with some great offers.
And that actually ties quite nicely into the second question, which is, will sales promotions and those sorts of promotions change? Has the buy one, get one free gone of yesterday, or is that still relevant? Or is it now all about free shipping? Or what's the kind of has the sales promotion space changed at all? And that's probably to Neil and also to Jim as well.
Okay, from my perspective, it's changed a little bit in terms of we will probably do more promotions online. We used to be very wary of not doing identical offers in store and online. Everything was consistent. And quite frankly, the amount of promotions you can get through online versus store, you can get a lot more through the online channel without it being confusing to customers. So I think we will run a lot more bespoke. I think free shipping is important. So that is something, a lever that we can turn on selected promotions. And I think multi-buys are important as well. The more people we can get to put, the more items we can get put in baskets, the better, really. So I think, if anything, there'll probably be more promotions than there's ever been on our online channels.
Jim, what about you? Do you see there being a change in the sorts of sales promotions that might be more successful post-COVID?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. But I think before you should even look at promotions, you should look at your organic strategy on some of these retailer platforms, because there's definite opportunities to improve your incremental sales performance just by doing some of the basic stuff well. It'd be interesting to see how this pans out, because, you know, before COVID, we had a lot of our own clients getting pretty fed up with being asked to spend extraordinary amounts of money for soulless emails and promotions through their retail partner channels without being given any real data or ROI in return. And I think it's interesting to hear Neil talk about that, because I think if that's the case, I think the onus is on the retailer to be a lot more transparent, provide a lot more information back to the brands that are funding those promotions, because it's been a bit of an opaque let's say promotion. I just don't think it's been particularly transparent, and there's been a lot of distrust between some of the retailers and manufacturers and brands for that reason. But I think, you know, the days of asking retailers to almost fund your bottom line are almost over to some extent, unless there is a higher degree of transparency. But I would start with an organic strategy first, then building promotions. I don't say promotions are bad. I just think there needs to be a lot more clarity about what they're delivering. Sorry, Neil.
Great. No, thank you.
Because you could just see, actually, it feels to me like that's one way they're going to make extra revenue, which doesn't seem particularly fair. So unless there is a high degree of transparency, why should they fund the retailer? You know, they can go to DTC, they've got other channels as well. So I think the pendulum's swung a little bit, and times have changed. People are a bit more awake to some of the traditional goings on of retailers asking for co-op marketing, when actually you don't really know where that budget's going.
Okay. Neil, do you want to reply to that, or you're muted, by the way, Neil?
That's all right, so I can swear at Jim. We have a lot of big suppliers, and to be fair to them, probably for a number of years now, they've been very keen on data. So customers, what they buy, what they spend, and we're quite happy to share that data with them, because we work together in partnership to try and drive it forward. So some of the smaller suppliers, not so yet, but the big suppliers invest vast amounts of money into research and data from their retail partners. So I think we already work very well with them. It's not just all about getting promotions, it's like targeted promotions for the right customer base and what you test to see what works. So we already do that in a big way anyway.
I wasn't talking about HMV, actually. I was talking about very well-known high street retailer.
Great. I think that's all we've got time for. I will, as normal, I'll try and summarise. But I think one of the things that's interesting that you kind of both said is buying online is now very much the new normal. I think lots of people have. I hate to say new normal, but I think lots of people have now experienced. It's almost the Pandora's box is open. A lot of people have experienced online. And realised its benefits and realised some of its drawbacks. But I think that now there's no excuse, unless you are fully optimised for a digital channel. And that's everything from how you talk about and write about your products through to the imaging that you use and how you are optimising your entire online presence, I think is now just an absolute fundamental for anyone. I think there's something interesting, and we kind of touched on it, Neil, where we talked about the buying journey, and ultimately retail had always formed part of that buying journey, where, as you mentioned, 75% of people go into store not knowing what they want. So actually the retail is that, final part of the marketing journey to close the sale. I think, at least for the next 18 months, I think that will change. I think people will be slightly more single-minded in why they go into retail. So with that in mind, I think where people are investing in that journey, I think people just need to consider how they're dealing with their marketing funnel and where they're investing, considering that, that almost retail now becomes much more about a point of purchase rather than part of that journey. But also I appreciate what you're saying, Neil, that there is an experiential element that retailers will have to up their game in. So let's wait and see. And on that final point, physical retail is not going away. I think we fundamentally as humans like to wander around and touch things and look at stuff, and that's just how we like to choose. So I think that's a really important part of the sales journey. But maybe what that is and the role that physical plays in that is going to change. And, again, as it was mentioned, that might become more about an experiential type experience rather than it being a more perfunctory sales type experience.
Thank you.
That's us. As from a feedback perspective, please do send any feedback. We've got one more session next week, so please send us all feedback for our season finale, if you like. And on that, Borja.
Yeah, I want to notice that everyone do not forget next week we have a session looking at the sports space, and we have Charlotte Offord and Jason Brisbane, the Senior Marketing Director and the Head of Grassroots and Community Development of the NFL, and alongside Stephen Dobson, the Director of Partnerships, Activation and Platforms at the EuroLeague Basketball.
Lots of very long job titles there, and fantastic that they'll be joining us for our finale. So thank you so much to Neil Taylor from HMB. Thank you, Neil. Thank you very much, Jim Hawker from 3 Pipe Reply. And thank you, Borja.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. We come back next Tuesday with the last session of the season. Remember, we cannot predict the future, but we can create it. So have all a really good and great week.